Welcome to the inaugural episode of Dune and Beyond. I'm your host, Dr. Judd Burton, and I'm hoping that you like the content. If you do, click a like, subscribe, and share. Well, today, Denis Villeneuve's Dune, the first trailer has dropped. I'm very excited about that. I'll put a link in the description in case you haven't seen it. But Dune is that great sci-fi novel by Frank Herbert. He wrote in 1965. It's often heralded as the greatest sci-fi story of all time. It's set 20,000 years in the future. Arthur C. Clarke compared it in scope to Lord of the Rings. And as an impressionable 13-year-old, I read this book after seeing the 1984 David Lynch adaptation of the novel. And what is Dune? Well, it's history, it's politics, it's religion, ecology, war, economics, leadership, cult of personality, all of these things set amidst a feudal tension in the future. And I don't want this channel to be, or this program rather, to just be white noise. I do have, I think, some unique perspectives to offer on Dune, those of a trained historian, anthropologist, and archaeologist, so I can talk about Dune and elements of Dune within the context of different cultural analyses, the historical analyses and comparisons, taking a look at Dune as an ethnologist would. But to understand Dune, we actually have to go back to the backstory to Dune, which makes it this very interesting cautionary tale. Like The Matrix and Terminator and Blade Runner, all of these stories, including Dune, deal with a humanity that has become overdependent on technology, artificial intelligence, robots, and the technocrats that control that technology have enslaved humanity, an increasingly gullible and controllable humanity because of their said dependence on technology and artificial intelligence. However, humanity will rise up, and a religious crusade will ensue against the so-called thinking machines and the people that controlled them. And so violent was this that it became, once order began to be reestablished, that it became a capital crime, rather, to develop artificial intelligence-based technologies. And there were a number of schools that emerged to retrain humanity, including the Mentats, who taught people to basically be human computers, the guild that was responsible for space travel and mathematics, the Bene Gesserit, which was a mystical order of nuns that had a selective breeding program, and the sword masters, who were the warriors. And the universe, as humanity scatters out into it, begins to settle into a kind of a feudal structure, if you will. Feudalism becomes the system of governance collectively known as the Landsraad under an emperor. And each planet basically is a fiefdom which an aristocratic house will control. And this is the state of, as I say, governance in the universe after this. And all technology is closely scrutinized under the watchful eye of the Imperium, so as not to repeat the mistakes of the previous generation. And that brings us up to the time of Dune, which according to their calendar is after the Guild, the year 10,191, which is about 20,000 years into the future. And at the heart of the story is a feud between two royal houses, two noble houses, House Atreides and House Harkonnen. And here you see a depiction from Villeneuve's Dune of House Atreides. And as the name would suggest, they're descended from the original Atreyu, the original Atreides, that is the House of Agamemnon. So they trace their lineage back to old earth. And for the most part, they are an honorable people, a noble people, and they try and rule fairly over their fiefdom on the planet of Caladan. But the rivals, the long-standing enemies of the Atreides, are the Harkonnens, who have a fiefdom on Giedi Prime, which is a kind of polluted industrial planet. At one time, they had a fiefdom on Arrakis, which we'll get to in subsequent episodes, I'm sure. But there's a long-standing feud between the very greedy, power-hungry, twisted House Harkonnen, headed over by the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. There's a long-standing feud between this house and House Atreides, which actually does go back to the revolt against the thinking machines, in which the Harkonnens endangered humanity, and this is how the Harkonnens and the Atreides fell out of step. Dune itself actually focuses in on young Paul Atreides, who is the heir to Duke Leto Atreides on Caladan. And Paul's story in Dune is one of coming of age, of liminality, of rites of passage. It's monomythic in many ways, in a Campbellian sense. But he's 15 years old and is the product of not only the aforementioned Bene Gesserit breeding program, but he's also been trained by his mother with Bene Gesserit skills, and his father saw to it that he was trained by Mentat as well. And so he's a very skilled young fellow, caught up in very hard times, and it's during this move to the planet Arrakis that the events of the story of Dune take place, and it's his family, the Atreides family, takes over the fiefdom of Arrakis to mine a valuable commodity known as the spice melange. And Arrakis is a dry desert planet where water is scarce, and this commodity, the spice, can only be found on Arrakis, on Dune. And it's a geriatric drug, basically. You ingest it, and it extends your life, possibly by hundreds of years, improves your health, expands your mental abilities. It allows people like the navigators to navigate through space as they travel faster than light. But it's highly addictive, and if you ever stop taking it, the withdrawals will kill you. But this is the central commodity of the universe, and it's the most important one. And like all treasures, they're guarded by dragons. In this case, the dragons of Arrakis are the giant sandworms, or Shahilud, as the native Fremen call them. And they guard the spice sands. They're very ferocious. And it's these Fremen natives that Paul will be very dependent on in terms of gaining allies in the future. So again, Dune is very monomythic. It's a cautionary tale against charismatic leaders. It's Lawrence of Arabia in space. It's all of these things and much more. It is Machiavellian in the extreme. It's a futuristic Machiavellian work that makes Game of Thrones look like Saturday morning cartoons, so please do enjoy. There's more Dune analysis to continue. There'll be more episodes of Dune and Beyond, so if you like this, click a like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you soon. Godspeed.